Happy Thursday and welcome to today's episode of Tech Bite.
I hear it's a little cold outside, but the sun finally came out.
In Central Ohio. In fact, we were even just worrying. The sun was like, you bring up a good point as well, Kirsten. You and I both are in Central Ohio, and we've got our producer, one in Ohio, and we're live on 4 streams. So put it in the chat for those streams that do have a chat. Let us know where your topic of the day. What are we going to talk about?
So today we're going to all these fancy technologies, all these systems we have to have in place. It pertains to every, size organization, these tips.
First job, then I moved into enterprise IT role. We've got some tips prepared. You want to just go into it?
Yeah.
Board at the old school airport travel. We're starting a new series of KPIs for the SMBs. Now that's three-letter acronym, all 3 plural with a little s on the little click, 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 but we'll see. All right. So Kirsten, for today, number 1, easy.
Just allows you to have a set of time on your backups that they bring. You're setting up that immutability period and you're storing that data based on but there's immutable storage also like hardened repositories. So utilizing that you have to choose from.
Yeah, I like to use the word curse of you as storage experts. It also could include somebody of all types of things. I'm going to show everybody a really quick example of a big infrastructure here in Veeam Data Platform. That is Veeam Backup and Replication, and it's a couple other products. We're going to talk about another one here in a second. Repositories, and then this other one here that I'll got to keep my skill level high here on my Zoom it that we'll look at here in green, what I call a scale to her, but I'm going to give the definition and then Kirsten rate my answer. It is a software-defined policy engine for
full grouping of backup repositories, allowing you to, scale out as needed and utilizing, the cloud for that scaling out.
Yep, object storages, but it doesn't have to be object storage. It can be just easy it is to get an ultra resilient backup target storage infrastructure. I call it double play immutability. Here in the US, we're almost ready for baseball season, so my joke will come back. Double play meaning a performance tier. So this is that first copy where those backups go first. They're going to go to an immutable storage resource on premises. And you mentioned Wasabi here in a second. I call that a capacity tier. And what are some of these other options telling me here?
Yeah, it's related to that capacity tier because at first capacity and RAs that you want to actually remove those. You can move them out.
No,
and you also have encryption too.
Yeah, and I like to say encrypt your backup data in the public mutability, but the underlying repository, sign up for an account, you're issued a bucket on premises. I'd say at a minimum 14 days, but I look at that because I love seeing where people are joining in from. And first for me, live, I'm not sure. I'd love to be there with you right now, even though I've got my son here. The sun is out here in Ohio. Let's head over to Europe. Looks like we got France. Is that Swiss? No, that's Hungary. Budapest. I was there a couple years ago. Beautiful city. And then I see an island in the Mediterranean. I can't place it, but anyways, we got Egypt and we've got Ethiopia. We got Pakistan, India, Thailand. Welcome everyone. Pretty late over there for y'all. So I appreciate everyone joining. All right, Kirsten, tip number 2. Let's jump back over to the slides. What is MFA, since we're talking about the SMB and our 3-letter acronyms?
Yeah, so MFA is just another level of security, really making sure that the people who are authorized to, log into your computer, log into the network, are using that second authentication, right? So a lot of times it might be a call to your phone. Maybe you're using the Microsoft app. You have to type in the number. So really just making sure that no one is what's the word I'm looking for with credentials?
Unauthorized?
Not unauthorized, but stealing credentials or gaining access through stealing credentials, pretending to be somebody that they're not, accessing the network. So that's just a really another really easy way to keep things on lock. But also to add to MFA, right? You also want to make sure that you're having a strong password policy for your organization as well. So having MFA set up, but also making your users use strong passwords and having them update them, based on your business policies is a good idea as well.
Yeah, for sure. Love all of that. The one thing I'll highlight is that configuring multi-factor authentication in Veeam is really easy. You just go into the users and roles, and you'll take somebody and just enable multi-factor authentication just like that. And then when they log in the very next time, they're given a QR code for OTP. One-time password is the mechanism that Veeam's implemented, and you'll have to set that up straight away. So Kirsten, next time you're logging in here, you got it. But anyways, what I want to show you is that that is super easy to do. And what's really cool about that, let's see if I can get this right on my camera. Producers don't know it's coming. But what I do want to show you here is I'm using the Authly application here. So that one-time password will just rotate through every minute. Sorry about the glare. The highway is right there, but that's how it works. We just have these one-time passwords so that it's on my phone. I use the Authly app. You can use Authenticator. You can use a whole bunch of other ones. Rotates through, I think, every minute with that 6-digit code. And I love that it automatically resolves the Veeam logo. Need to get the new logo. Different problem. All right. Number 3 tip, Kirsten. What do you want to talk about now?
So when I was looking at the slide decks, it said complete protection. And that could mean a lot of things in my viewpoint, right? You think complete protection, you think about the variety of areas workloads could be running, right? Whether they're physical, virtual, maybe you have some workloads running in the cloud. So you need to make sure you're protecting all of those workloads. You also want to think about, using encryption, right? Making sure you're encrypting your backup data. Because you already said it, Rick, what's the saying?
Uh, Encrypt your data in the cloud, or someone else will do it for you.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about protection. I'm thinking, making sure all of my workloads are being backed up, making sure that they're encrypted. And then I also was thinking about this point too. A lot of the times for SMBs, it might be a little overwhelming, right, to think about how to back up, where am I going to store my backups? So maybe even thinking about service providers, it can be another layer of complete protection for your organization, helping you make sure your data is protection. But, complete protection is very broad, Rick. So what were you thinking about when you added this tip on here?
Yeah, it's a very good point. And I think that's a good time to, let everyone know about the Veeam Data Platform today. This Veeam Data Platform is more than just virtual machines. I mean, Veeam has set the bar high in data protection across the different levels and things like that. And when we protect everything right there is probably the good view, right? Chances are, even the SMB, you're going to have a number of these different platforms, one or more of them, enterprise apps, unstructured data. Yeah, we've got some of that stuff. And so if you're new to Veeam, I really recommend you go to veeam.com and click the free trial. And hopefully, Felicia or one of the other staff can push out that short URL. I mean, we make it super easy to try Veeam. Get that fully functional trial if you want to back up a virtual machine. You know, um, maybe you have something in AWS and you have some Windows physical servers and laptops, and we got a Linux server too, right? Most people have Active Directory and some of these databases. Veeam can protect all of this stuff. And so when I think about complete protection, Kirsten, this is really right up my alley. We got a question from Newman. It says, in case of SMBs, there are not many teams that are pros at hardening Windows. What is the recommendation you have to harden the Veeam solution without being an expert in Windows Server? Great question. So Newman, what I'd recommend you do, um, As you do, let's go to Google and let's say Veeam best practices. And the solution architects have made this kind of subset of our website here. And these are right out of the architect's desk. So I highly recommend you check out that, the best practices guide, because they have in here the 2023 edition, which is important because it's hardened and it's been field proven, right? In here, there is a implementation on the security design. So I highly recommend, Newman, you check out the BP bestpractices.veeam.com. So good luck with that. And then also you can, check with some of your Veeam contacts or your partner as well. So great question, Newman. And for those of you watching, A, let us know where you're coming from. B, if you have questions like that, Kirsten and I will do our best to sort them out. All right. So Kirsten, anything else on complete protection?
Yeah, well, I guess just to monitor, make sure you're monitoring your backups, right? That's also part of complete protection. Don't you agree?
I do, and it's a perfect segue to point number 4, visibility. Now, visibility means a lot of things, and you did walk into one important part of it, but I feel that a resilient strategy, really for any organization, big or small, is just simply knowing what's going on. Walk through any data center or imagine any cloud, all these blinking lights, something's happening, right? Are they all good? Are they bad? Are they expected? So, Veeam has the Veeam data platform, and there's a part of Veeam data platform, Kirsty, that's near and dear to your heart, and maybe introduce the audience to that.
Yeah, so one of the parts of the Veeam data platform is a Veeam One. And this just provides you with continuous monitoring of your backup infrastructure and your virtual environment. So immediately it starts collecting data on your environment, and you can take a look and see how your machines are operating, how they're utilizing the resources that are assigned to them, and identify any type of abnormal, suspicious behavior that might be happening in your environment. And get alarms, different things like that, reports. But I think what would be really cool is to actually see it in
Mm,
action.
there we go. So yes, Veeam One, which is one part of the platform, pardon the pun, we'll do this all week, friends, is that monitoring, reporting, alerting, capacity planning solution. And I really like Kirsty because it shows me that I have 5 virtual machine backup jobs. I have 1 agent job. Does have a warning, but what's an agent? Help me out with the definition there.
Yeah, so the agent is just what we use to back up physical machines. The physical machines running Windows, Linux, Mac, any of the other ones I'm missing.
The others, okay, the other 2, yeah,
Yeah,
Solaris and AIX. There are
yeah.
5 agents, 4 hypervisors with Veeam, and 2 types of unstructured data. So NAS data, which would be NFS or SMB. And so that's an important one, right? That came in our version 10. Unstructured data, that's a big one. Actually, I should say we also do object storage backup now. So there's actually 3 unstructured data sources. I can barely keep up. I love this at a glance view. It looks like this tells me I got to look at something, what failed, and I can click and see. So we did an object storage job. That was a successful one, but then this other unstructured job, it was a file share. This one didn't go as expected. So I really like this view, Kirsty, because I can go look at my environment at a glance and right away know that, that's something I need to tend to. And if I'm an SMB, 5 VM backup jobs, sounds pretty fair. It looks like you got a AWS job in the mix. Hat tip to you for that. And this, I'm using her lab, by the way.
Yeah.
I did switch environments. So for those of you keeping score at home, where's that other Wasabi and all of that? This is Kirsten's lab for Wasabi or for Veeam One. And tell me about the 5 jobs that you have set up here, Kirsten.
Okay, so this is a lab environment. So I have some virtual machines going to AWS, some virtual machines going to Object First, which is another object storage vendor that you can utilize. So I just like to have a little bit of variety so I can show a little, show more in my demos. But if you go to, yeah, you can actually go and see all the different metrics based on repository. If you have immutability enabled, if it's not enabled. Um, but really what I also love about this view is really just getting access to, all the different alarms that Veeam has and being able to pinpoint where these issues are actually happening, right? And you mentioned earlier that whole, complete protection. How do we harden the Windows environment? Well, there's a really good way that we can do that, right? And that is by running the security and best practice analyzer within Veeam backup and replication, right? So that's going to run and analyze your environment, match it with security best practices, and then you're going to be able to fix what needs to be fixed and identify those gaps. And within Veeam, you can get alerted on the status of the results of that analyzer, so that you can go in and make those recommendations and, make sure that you're hardening your backup infrastructure even further.
That's a super important point, Kirsten, because on the 15th of this month, we haven't loaded it on the LinkedIn event schedule, but you and I are going to do a deep dive of the Veeam Threat Center and all of those configurations around multi-factor authentication, the immutable, just the SLAs of jobs completing. That's what we're going to talk about. And Kirsten will be doing most of that. This is a really big one. We're really excited for that one. So, by the way, thank you, Kirsten, for always saying yes to these crazy volunteering ideas I come up with. But you mentioned the alarms. This is a cool one here.
Yeah.
This one is telling us that we're running low on space. Like, this is a really good example of something that an SMB might have to deal with, like hard drive space running full. Again, Veeam will tell you these types of things. And I like to say, Kirsten, that I guarantee you Veeam will tell you something about your environment that you didn't know and you probably need to address. So SMB, that's right up the alley. And then we'll just take another one here. You mentioned that compliance state here on this particular alarm. When we have these different alarms that are out there, I love, by the way, with Veeam, you always get these nice kind of plain English descriptions of what's going on, which is cool. And when these things happen, I highly recommend people do stuff with them. So notifications, right? This is well, you like to call it an Easter egg, right? Once these things are triggered, what kind of things can we do with it?
So yeah, we can send an email to a group. We can send an SNMP trap, run a script, and then now actually with the latest version, we can create a ServiceNow incident or send a syslog message. So if you're one of these organizations that are already utilizing these toolboxes, you can easily make sure that your critical alerts are sent to those platforms. And that has a lot of many benefits to it, right? You're sending up the critical alerts about the backup infrastructure and you're extending it into the ServiceNow platform. You're really making sure that all of your notifications are in one place. So that can streamline troubleshooting, right?
Yeah, just visibility, knowing what's going on, and at a minimum, an email, and then if you have ServiceNow or if you have syslog like tools and EDR that can, aggregate all of these things, really, really awesome stuff. All right, we're getting close. I have one more thing of our 5 easy tips, and it is a numbers-based situation. So something we've been talking about for the SMB for so long. Kirsten, tell me about the 3-2-1 rule.
Yeah, so this rule is, the tried and true rule for data protection. And it basically just says, you need to have 3 copies of your data on 2 different media, one which is offsite. And this is basically going to help you recover in any type of disaster scenario, just because you're going to have multiple copies of your data that you can potentially restore from. And, you want to think about, different medias, one offsite. And then with the added, innovation of today's technology, we have to innovate to make sure our data is protected, right? So we have added to this number with the 1 offline air gapped or immutable and 0 errors after backup and recovery. The worst situation is you go to restore from a backup and for some reason the machine doesn't boot properly. And then you're like, I never tested my backup. I didn't know that it was going to be recoverable. So making sure that you are testing your backups and you can recover them is really important. And it's also really important when it comes to cyber resilience, right? Because the first line of defense in a cyber attack is, a secure backup, right, Rick?
Yeah, I believe the DPR, which we'll talk about that in a second, DPR 23 and ransomware trends found like 93% of cyber incidents also attack the backup infrastructure. So we need this. And then a couple of thoughts here. The 32110 rule doesn't require any specific hardware, yet it can really get you out of nearly any type of failure scenario. So that's really, really awesome. And I would also argue that when we talk about the offline air gapped or immutable, this one right here, this is probably the most important from a resiliency standpoint. And please, audience, do not limit yourself to one. You can go to two different immutable examples. That double place scale out backup repository that I showed in one of the first examples, that is two different copies. Both are immutable, both on different control planes. So by the math, by the numbers, those are techniques that are going to give you a very high confidence of data recovery in a cyber incident. And then the only other thing I'll add here, Kirsten, is that when we talk about zero errors after recovery verification, I also look about what Veeam's done with our Yara rule scanning and then some of the scheduled sure backup random jobs that can do anti-malware scans, again, giving you very high confidence of clean data. But people always want more. And the last thing I want to share with everybody is really that we have a new white paper that has come out about building a cyber resilient data recovery strategy. And Felicia, if you could push that link out, I would appreciate it. But it's a quick read about some of the different foundations, identification, critical data. This is really suited for the SMB to get started and really just bring that enterprise level of resiliency to the SMB without the complexity. I like to say, Veeam is too hard to use, said nobody ever. Show me someone on LinkedIn with a job title of Veeam admin. It doesn't exist. A couple other things here. We have a really busy agenda coming up. In fact, next week on the Industry Insights stream, the Tuesday stream, they're going to go further into the DPR, the Data Protection Trends Report, with some hybrid multi-cloud strategies around digital transformation. I love how that DPR report just keeps going deeper and deeper. And then 2 weeks from today, Kirsten, you ready for Threat Center Deep Dive? We're bringing it, right?
Yeah, I'm super ready. Born ready.
Yeah, I might have you do the demo on that one because it's kind of hard to click, walk, and talk at the same time.
Yeah.
And then a week from today, we have a very special semi-takeover. We usually do the Veeam 100 show on the 1st of the month. This particular one on the 8th of Feb will be a YouTube-only event in Portuguese. So Wesley and Julia on my team, and then Beth and Thiago from Brazil. So Brazilian Portuguese, but hey, some countries in Africa that speak Portuguese as well as Portugal, you're welcome to join. But we have a really, really strong community there. So so much coming here. But again, we're starting with that SMB series. The next one will be around KPIs. And a big thanks to our campaign managers, Megatron and Colin, helping me prep some of this material. But I'm forgetting one more thing, super important. Mark, Felicia, and Jeffrey, our producers, I tell you, they make me look good, and I am so grateful for that. So, Kirsten, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
All right, everyone, thanks for watching. That concludes our stream.
In a world of increasing cyber threats and smarter cyber criminals, be radically resilient. Introducing Veeam Data Platform 23H2 Update, built on Zero Trust architecture and with AI-powered threat detection, proactive threat hunting, SIM systems and ServiceNow integration, and Yara content analysis. Plus, Veeam's new Threat Center helps identify risks to your environment in a simple, powerful security scorecard. The Veeam Data Platform includes backup and recovery, monitoring and analytics, plus recovery orchestration. Learn more at vee.am/what's new and achieve radical resilience.